All right, here we go. Howdy, folks. This is the 17th of February 2026 meeting of the Operator Framework Working Group for OLM. We are taking a look for start at the agenda to see what items are on our list. We have no briefs up for review. We have an RFC up for review on the PSA support.
Speaking to
Please.
that, there
Mhm.
will be a follow-up from the discussion from 2 weeks ago at the Arch call again today. So if anyone wants to join, that's open immediately after the community meeting.
Fantastic. Okay, and the targeted date for completion of this is the 27th of February.
Was just uh, sorry to follow up on that. The Arch call seems to have disappeared from our calendar.
Oh,
So I don't know what its status is. Anik was asking if it had been canceled.
It's not, and
uh,
it's still on the internal calendar for Red Hatters.
I see it on the operator framework internal calendar too.
Okay. I
Seconded.
didn't see it there. I didn't see it there. Okay, never mind. I thought it disappeared. Oh yeah, that
Okay.
right. My calendar's red. Never mind. Right. It's right. I was looking at the wrong calendar. My apologies.
Okay, let's look through. I see no items on old action items for follow-up. I'll want to take a look at that in a second in the agenda itself. No queued demos presently, no topics on the agenda for discussion. We have a roadmap check-in that we can hit in a moment, but let's first scroll down and see what we have in terms of anything that we said we would do in a previous session we have not yet tied off. And I'm going back to the beginning of the year because there were a few things I'm trying to make sure we understand. We have old discussion topics. Okay, so we did have one thing that I wanted to follow up on. I've been seeing I've seen the thread go through of all of the Go 125 adoption PRs. I think there are a couple of the Kate's 135 ones that are going through, but they have not completed right now. I would definitely suggest that maintainers take a look at the repos for both V1 and V0 and give attention to those because, as identified by Camilla, there's the potential for a significant amount of delta in this particular version adoption. But since we're not ourselves doing any webhooks, then we may not have some of the worst of it. Okay, moving forward in time. And of course, if in this discussion, as I go through our history, there's commentary, discussion, questions, whatever, please feel free to interrupt. I don't have my video on, so you can't see me talking with my hands, but that's because of technical issues with my Mac. Let's see. Previous action items. We have a action item for me talking with Michael, Ryan, Peter on maturing our need stocks tickets. I met with Michael during shift week for Red Hat was last week. So last week I had conversations with him and had some conversation about how we could make this into a less blocking on one person problem and turn it into more of a how do we get good guidelines to make this operate independently. I need to still follow that up with a PR to our contributing guidelines to capture some of what we learned there. We do have some new GitHub actions as well as some new patterns that we think we can propose to the group to allow us to stop parking tickets in limbo and allow us to move on meaningfully. We have an action item here from with Camilla to take a look at our Helm epic to see what has already been achieved by some of our other work related to general config, box cutter, and other features so that we can limit it to just what remains. I know she's not on the call because she had a scheduling conflict. And I had an action item to check up with Predrag about a particular V1 issue. I have not taken that one. Let me copy that forward because otherwise it might get lost. Oh, and just a reminder, if you're running this meeting, there are some templated actions on for every instance here that you should be discharging before you feel like you've concluded your duties here, including setting up all of the stuff that we need for the next get together and uploading the videos, which is something I had been remiss in the past about doing. All right, so that's everything from the action items that I see. And I brought forward the one that was absolutely left unfulfilled. Is there anything else that should be on this list? All right, let's check in with our project views. Okay, starting at the right. Let's see, no change in status of done. These are the same 4 items that we talked about last time that were in needs docs, and until we can propose a strategy to get us out of here, I think that these are going to stay here for the short term. The goal here is to make the short term, not a long term. And then let's see, Anik I see is assigned to this one. Anik is not on the call. Anybody able to speak to the cluster extension parameters pass through to templating engine feature?
Assuming that's the configuration stuff that he's been working on. I understand he's been making decent progress on this.
Yeah, it seems like I know I was asking him to see if he could bring the board up to date with regards to this work, but it doesn't look like it's happened. So
Probably not.
I have to poke him again.
Let me just quickly look to see what PRs have been merged.
Okay,
Let me
while you do
quickly.
the research here, I'll quickly elide over 962 here because that's the one we were talking about needed to be rescoped. And Todd, you jump back in when you've had a look. Now,
There is something been
mhm.
merged. Extract and pass deployment config to bundle renderer. Merged 2 weeks ago, 2482. Completes phase 3 of deployment config RFC. So I'm not sure if that we should reach out to him to see what ticket is this.
This one is 381.
381. Okay, let me ask him. I'll ask him about that real quick.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Okay, rather than go through each ticket in turn on here, does anybody on this call come with an updated status on any of our tickets right now that lack status? Hearing nothing. I'll take a look at something very quickly because, okay, good. Making sure it's showing up properly. All right, then let's go through them one at a time. Progressing status during retries. I know we have some box cutter work that is associated with showing more useful state. The last conversation on this looks like it was March or possibly May last year. Anybody with an update? I think we'd have to check with Pear to see about whether or not some of the cluster extension revision conditions communication is the same as this. So let me update the status with this. Okay. Next one is direct bundle installation. This one is not assigned. And the last information on it was trying to be staled out by the bot. And we've frozen that. All right, next one, orphan delete. This one has also been frozen with no assignees. Anyone with updated status? All right, hearing nothing. Next one is 1501. OLM v1 should be able to be added with a cluster with existing workloads, rather. This one is frozen
It looks
last
like,
time.
just noting at the very end, the comment, there's some reference there to migration, I thought. Migration CRD controllers where possible. Lorenzo W mentioned that. So this, I'm not saying it is, but it sounds like this is part of the bigger migration thing. So I don't know what
Interesting.
that
Yeah,
is.
this is another product that's
Right.
just trying to leverage the installability of okay, so it's trying to install platforms with Helm and then leave installation of components governed by those platforms to
Yeah.
manage themselves. Yeah.
Right. So, but this may still be related because it's should be added to a cluster of existing workloads. So it sounds like it might be a migration thing too. If it, but I could
Hmm.
be wrong.
Yeah, I'm taking
Someone
a look
else
at it. I don't see
interpreted it.
that.
Someone else interpreted it that way, in a way.
Gotcha.
So
So they're definitely making mention here about cert manager. And my understanding from looking at this issue, uh, the primary concern is when cert manager is already installed on the cluster before OLM is installed. And so the primary use case identified here is
mm,
we want to be able to install with V0 or V1 when there's already cert manager in the cluster. And we don't want to be disruptive to that existing configuration of cert manager. Honestly, I find this third item here to be a bit open-ended. I need OLM v1 to respect and integrate with the cluster's existing components without causing conflicts or compatibility issues.
that is a bit open-ended. And I'm just saying is we kind of already behave this way right now, at least on our, we don't interfere with our end-to-ends work this way. We basically install OLM on a cluster that has cert manager on it.
Interesting. So is it possible that this work is already complete?
Oh, I'm not sure there was any work to do, really. I'm not sure what this is really asking for.
So I know back in the day, our installation approach was to couple cert manager deployment with operator controller and catalog D. And so it was a trio of components.
Right, you had to install cert manager first, and with the recent templating of the config, you can choose whether or not you want to have any cert manager support or any OCP certificate support. And so you just kind of enable cert manager use, and or you don't enable cert manager use in that particular case, another particular case. So
But if we enable that feature gate, because I remember the one you're referring to. So if we say we want Cert Manager, does it assume that we're installing Cert Manager, or
no,
can it adopt one?
it assumes it's already there,
So this one may actually be done.
or there's nothing to, or there was never anything to do about it.
Sorry, fair enough. Could I ask you, Todd, to take a look at the mechanism there and verify whether or not we're capable of interoperating with an existing deployment of Cert Manager
So
without trying to do any customization of it?
I would say, okay, so are you asking here for, do we work with cert manager? Okay, so I see a table here of four. Cert manager, yes, no on the top, and OLM configured with cert manager, yes or no on the side. I know we work in the cert managers installed, and we are trying to use cert manager, but I don't know if we work in the other three quadrants. Is that what you're asking for, or because right
No,
now
that makes sense. Like we would have to kind of build that truth table, right?
well, that's one option. Or, I mean, I think we require TLS. I think we require certificates. So right
Yes.
now, our end-to-end tests do just simply install Cert Manager and then install Operator Controller on top of it. So that's, is that what this is asking for? If it is, we're done. But if it's the truth table thing, that's another matter. So
So I don't think we're making any assertions in this ticket, though at least the way I read it, as we can function without Cert Manager. It's really more along the lines of if it's already there, we don't have to modify that deployment in any way that would be disruptive to others. And
right,
we can install ourselves without having to install our own Cert Manager deployment,
right. And we don't
which is two ways of
currently,
saying the same kind of thing, right?
yeah, we currently don't do it. What is ticket number is this? This fifth, I can't, 1501.
1501. Yeah, that's why I
The
was like, can you take
URL
a
was a
look at
little
it?
weird looking. Okay, I'll ask Camille about it, but also I will look at our E2E just to verify that that's the case.
Okay. I'm going to give you an action item.
I did ask Onik. I have not received a response yet.
Cool, cool, cool. Sounds like progress. Okay, moving on then to the next thing. Permission validation pre-flight stage 2. Last I'd heard, we didn't have anybody who was working on this issue. I see no assignees. It's not queued up for a particular type of
Yeah,
work.
I think that I don't know if it's really relevant anymore right now until we've got all that stuff in progress for impersonation and this still, I think, will potentially could be something eventually. It definitely doesn't have to do with Cardinal anymore.
All right, could I ask you,
Oh yeah, no, yeah,
Tyler?
this is not relevant at all. We don't need to have API fields to hold structured permissions anymore. I'm pretty sure. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but
Yeah, we were thinking of getting rid of the original pre-flight validation stuff when we move to Box Cutter because we need to be cluster admin for that anyway. But then there's the whole thing about um, the work you've done, Taylor, about already being able to still support the old mechanism where you have a service account in the namespace.
yeah, I don't think well, it's up in the air if that's ever going to actually get removed, right? Because it's GA'd. this
Yeah, but it's not really a
being
feature. It's like no longer necessary to check. Just because it's GA'd, it's not like there's any user config associated with it.
no, yeah, yeah. I mean, I just mean the like service account authentication stuff,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
not this in particular, not the pre-flight, um, but I mean, based on some of those conversations, there have been as part of the conversations like the idea that we could continue to develop this stuff depending on how the authentication stuff shakes out. Like if we end up maintaining two parallel paths of authentication into the future, um, this could potentially be something that like we hack on and make better. But there's not like I don't think there's like any like immediate plans or anything, and I don't think that there's a concrete shape for any of this either. And definitely, I don't think the shape is what this is describing right now, at least. If that makes sense.
So, in as far as the references to Carvel are concerned here, Taylor, could you take an action and scrub this one to to update the references to what the current strategies look like? Because I know that we were for the time there looking at Carvel as the vehicle for interactions that would give structure to this, and we're not doing that anymore for reasons.
Yeah,
But it would be nice to reflect that here.
sure, can do
Because
that.
it's really easy for me to look at this as a moderator and go, oh, this references Carvel, it's therefore a trash ticket, throw it away. And I don't really
Yeah.
want to do that if there's stuff. Cool.
Yep, yeah, I'll take a look and I'll edit it.
Thank you, Taylor. Got an action item on the stage now. Next, Epic E2E test strategy. Okay, goals, run E2E with mock data inside the same repo. No additional repos needed for mocks or samples. Avoid repeating tests already covered elsewhere. And support testing features that are behind feature flags. We have two work items, I believe, associated with this under the what we'll do
That sounds
part
like a
of this
policy.
description. It really does. And it looks like the only remaining work item here is to replace external catalogs with test-only mock catalog for 1992. So I guess, yeah, based like I feel like what you just expressed there, Todd, it feels to me like what would have been a logical assumption for outcomes here is a policy statement about how we'd like to have contributions and evolution. And then we would see future tests that were delivered that were cleaving to those guidelines.
Yeah, kind of.
But what I see instead is we did a bunch of stuff that isn't really necessarily related, right? Like EDE for webhooks and for namespaced installs. And those I would have expected to be under tickets focused in that direction, not a general EDE strategy. And furthermore, I'm not sure that this one remaining work item here for replacing external catalogs with a test-only mock is a realizable short-term goal that is, how to put it, words, that is the most important thing for us to do right now. And there's a part of my mind that wonders if actually we might have already done it. We just have some bookkeeping to update here. Tell you what, in the interest of moving on, I'll just take an action item to go see if we've already got a mock catalog construction. Okay, moving on. All right, registry V1 bundle validation. So this ticket arose from the fact that in the OLM V0 project, there was never any really strong validation of the format of a registry V1 bundle. It kind of was an evolving surface with no solid reference point. And during the webhook support phase of registry V1 bundles in OLM V1, we identified some inconsistencies and wanted to do some validation, which would be useful for avoiding general error classes, great, and possibly for direct bundle installation. So I see that the validation framework has been merged, looks like, and then a refactor convert. This looks like it's possibly stale. So let me just short circuit this conversation and I'll ping Pear about it to see if there's a thing that needs to be done. Right, any questions on this one? I know I kind of like bulldozed that. Cool, hearing nothing, moving on. Last item on our list is leverage registry V1 composite version for bundle ordering. This is work that was started originally on previous bundle version override feature, but we separated into basically spec work versus on cluster work. This is the on cluster work portion. There are 3 identified subwork items here, none of which are accomplished. This work currently is not assigned, and I wrote it, so of course I could speak to it. If anybody has any questions. Other than that, what I'm seeing is that state on this object is pretty fresh and doesn't look like it needs any updates. All right. That is the board as is showing right now. Do we have any? Actually, let me put it differently. If there are any items that are not on the board that you were expecting to see on the board, let's talk offline about how to get them showing on the board so that we can talk about them. With the board view completed, I'll open the floor to general discussion, other topics, Q&A. Questions, comments, howls of outrage, I believe is the going phrase. All right, hearing nothing, then I will bring this meeting to a close. Give you back 20 minutes. Thanks everyone for your participation. The next meeting, of course, is in part of our alternating schedule, will be an MEA APAC time-framed meeting. If you're able to make that one, please absolutely do. Otherwise, be aware that the next time frame schedule for this time zone frame of reference will be in 2 weeks. All right, thanks everyone. Catch you at the next one.